right, so got this cut out, prepped, put some weld through primer on it. You can see here, I'm gonna take this out. You can kind of see here these holes that I've drilled into the corners of this radius here. The reason those are there is because this inner flange, see there's a panel on the inside of this under the dash that comes over and butts up inside here, and it's welded to that. So I cut that out because it was rusty. I'm gonna replace it. So you can see there what's left, and you can see the corner of these holes, the edge of these holes that I've drilled in that corner radius. So I'm going to use those holes to weld through to reattach that panel, and then I'm going to make the new piece to fit that hole and flange over to weld through these other holes to weld to that. I'm going to butt weld these three sides with the MIG welder and then grind those down. And once I get started with that, it'll all go really fast. But I've made a template already. What I'm gonna do is cut that template out, transfer that to a piece of steel, and cut that out, and then bring that over and clamp it in and start welding. All right, I'm gonna start making our patch panel here. It's got a piece of 20 gauge sheet metal. Just start to put the straight edge of it onto the straight edge of the piece that I'm making it from. Just lay my cardboard template on there. I know this is all really self-explanatory, but some people just want to see you doing stuff. I like teaching. I feel like every time I teach, I'll learn something. Okay. So there's that. If you can see that, it's gold marker, so it's harder to see, but see where I've traced that out. Just make it fit the hole that's there. You don't have to take too much metal out. Now a lot of these lines are, they're curved. I like to make them as straight as possible. Sometimes you can't. So we're going to pick up the high corner, go straight across. High corner, go straight across. Of course, that one is straight. And then we're going to take a grinder and grind the rest of them down to that line. Got the old Central Machinery shear brake slip roll. I like this thing. I mean, I wish it would do heavier gauge stuff, but it says up to 20 gauge on the in the manual, and it will do 20 gauge. But I have noticed that if you've got a piece of 20 gauge all the way across this shear, it's tough on it. I mean, there's an adjustment in the back that actually adjusts this shear gap between this shear and the cutting, the die and basically the shear edge. And you push that out and make that tighter, but it just seems to overcome that and push it, and it'll kind of flange it over sometimes. You just got to be careful with it. The faster the better. Get a lot cleaner cut. You really got to lay into it and get it sheared off there as quick as possible. You run you've got less of a burr. There we go. See, we got that shear it off of there. Now I'll grab my grinder. Unlock this. Move it back out of the way a little bit. It don't take long for this to warm up, so I may have to go put another set of gloves on. I don't know. I'll try to keep away from it, keep as far away from it as possible, but it'll probably get too warm by the time I get it ground back to that line. Yep, time to get the old welding gloves on. Unless you're pretty skilled with a grinder, got good control of your hands. If you're just starting out doing this, it'd be best to clamp this in a vise. That's the smartest way to do it. I mean, I've been using hand grinders for so long. I still, make mistakes every now and then, but I can pretty much hold this and grind this with one hand and never have a problem. So just use your best judgment. We don't want you to hurt yourself. Always make sure you have safety glasses on when you're doing this. Here we go. As you can see, I don't know if you can see it or not, but I left about half of that line on there along here and here, and that'll give me room to put my sheet metal clamp in there to hold that good and flush, so I'll get a good, very small gap for a weld. I like to use a TIG welder. I'm actually a lot better TIG welder than I'm a MIG welder, but the MIG welder is just so much faster, and it's a lot better to get in tight places because, with a TIG welder, you're doing three things at once. I do have a hand control. I may have told you that already, but I haven't used it yet. I haven't been in a situation where I really needed it. But yeah, you can actually just, if you cut these joints close enough, you can just clamp these in there, or just hold them up there and fuse it with the TIG torch and just follow that seam right down through there and never have a bead or anything to grind at all. But you have to have a really tight joint to do that. So some places like this in a wheel well or whatever, I mean, on this thing, it's just not, I'm not that concerned about it. I'm okay with spot welding it with the MIG welder and then grinding the high spots of the welds down. It's not gonna make a difference, so. All right, let's get to putting this in. Okay, so I have this piece made. You can see I've got a few dots here. I'm gonna actually drill some weld through holes there so that I can spot weld that in. My center drill. I'm gonna replace all this, so I'm not really concerned about it. All right. This is actually a center drill. It's exactly what it is. It's made for starting a hole, getting it centered where you want it before you run your drill bit in there. And you can see it's got a countersink. It flares up. So it's got a countersink, a tapered cutter on it, where you can actually make the hole. You can make it 3/16 all the way up to 3/8. And I'm making them about, I don't know, 11/32, 5/16, 11/32. Just eyeballing it. And that's what size I like my weld through holes to be. You come through back here on the back side, just like that. Turn it over, deburr it. Pretty handy, just like that. Stick that up there, like so. Just kind of pull it into place. Move it up a hair. There we go. That's perfect. All right. What we'll do now is I think I'm just going to grab my welder and hold that up there, put one spot on it, and that'll hold it in place. Gotta find us a good spot, because I was grounding this up in here. Probably a good spot right there. Do quite nicely, I assume. Yeah, I think that'd be fine. And then grab my welding gloves. Turn my argon on. already got my welder set where I want it for doing this thin sheet metal. All these welders are different. You know, this is a 250 Miller-Matic, and for doing 20 gauge, I've got my wire speed on about 38 and my voltage on about 18. That is, like I said, some welders only have like 1, 2, 3, and 4 on them. High and low, stuff like that. Kind of generic. But you just kind of got to play with them, figure out as you go where you want them. Yeah, I didn't figure that would work. I'm going to cut this off to where it's about an 1/8 inch, 1/4 inch, whatever. Well, just hit the trigger. You want about an 1/8 inch sticking out of the shield. All right, let me get this back up in there. Now, I'm gonna come down here to a spot right in this corner. Do the old jig clamp it on it. Pull this in tight. Blew through that, so I had to close it up again. Yep, that's quite thin there. Thing got a grinder. Said I'm pretty good at TIG welding. Been doing it a long time. MIG weld's new to me. I'm actually a tool and die maker. So we use stick welders and TIG welders. We hardly ever use MIG welders. In fact, I don't remember ever using one when I was working as a tool maker. It's just weird. I'm gonna do a little bit of grinding first. And we'll see what we got. Touch it up a little bit. Sure. Alright, so that's pretty much done. It's welded in. I want to put some seam sealer on it. Just up in the top here, where this top of this piece that I put in ended up. I'll put some seam sealer on there, some seam sealer on these little welds. Right in this bottom butt weld, some over here, just to make sure. Yeah, I'm happy with that. No longer a hole. These are where push-in retainers go that hold the firewall insulation on. So I'm gonna leave those, but what I'll probably end up doing is just making a rubber washer and putting a bolt through there with a nut on it. Because I'm not gonna put the firewall insulation back in here. It just holds, it held moisture, and it's no good. I don't think you can even get it anymore. So it's gonna be fine for what this car is. Like I said, it's gonna be a gasser, street gasser, but I mean, it's not gonna be driven in the wintertime most likely anyway. So I'm not that concerned about that. You know, engine heat maybe, but you know, we're not building a show car here. We're building a driver. But yeah, I'm happy with that. I'll cover these holes up with some bolts and rubber washers, and I've still got to go in here and pressure wash all this old dirt and undercoating and crap out of here on both sides. So yep, next thing I'm gonna do is weld the rest of these fill-in panels in, and this side will be done. Rock on.